And this is very instructive. This is a fractal instruction right here for me. We're going to talk about New York City's Democrat mayor, and I got little quotes around there because he's not a Democrat. But so Evie, here's where we are. The Democratic primary just came out, and Zohran Mamdani won, and Cuomo concedes to Mamdani. He won. He deserves it, he said.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is this still? Are we still talking about Twitter?
No. I moved on.
You moved on?
No time to process that.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So you found this on Twitter, though.
Sure.
Okay. Just checking. So independent probe finds Cuomo COVID response engendered public mistrust.
Public mistrust. So can we be clear about this? By engendered public mistrust, what they're trying to delicately say is Cuomo's policies murdered tens of thousands of elderly people in old folks or long-term care homes. And that tends to engender mistrust when you kill granny and grandpa. It's just somehow that creates a level of mistrust. So, I mean, the death, it's really gross.
It's really bad. More than 15,000 residents in New York nursing homes died of COVID-19. Andrew Cuomo made $5.1 million off of their deaths. Some would call him a hitman. And these were grandmothers and grandfathers that probably some of you, or like your grandmothers and grandfathers that just want to be near their family, that weren't allowed to say goodbye, that died alone, terrified and scared.
Yep.
Right? From a disease that didn't necessarily have to be fatal.
Well, if New York's going to be smart at all, they will get to have a Republican to be mayor again.
Good time for a Republican to be mayor again in New York City. That would be awesome.
Yep.
That would be great.
Yeah. I mean, he was. I mean, there's no other way to put
it.
Yeah. Cuomo was that. And the 5.1 million being referenced here is he got a book deal out of this. Okay.
Okay.
Which, by the way, he had his staffers write, not even him. It's an autobiography that other people were writing. He's probably yelling at them the whole time. Not a good guy. And so I have to ask that question, really? How was it that Cuomo was the best the party Democratic machinery could tap? Really? You had to go with a grandma killer? That was your best option. Like, we searched far and wide. New York City's mayor is a really big, important spot. So let's use.
Couldn't there be other candidates?
Yeah. Didn't Kamala want the job? I mean, no, it's just like the Democratic Party's just imploding at this point in time.
I know.
But they're also revealing themselves. I think this is revealing. Like, literally, yes, they looked around in the Democratic Party, whatever machinery is taken, whatever soul spirit sucking thing is taken over the machinery of that organization, said, you know what? We actually like Cuomo. He's our kind of guy because he killed 15,000 elderly people.
Right. They probably like him because he'll carry out whatever the next operation is without any questions, right?
You can trust this guy. Now, when I say he did that, what happened was they would take people who had COVID legit in a hospital setting, and then they moved them into old folks' homes, right? And then the old folks got substandard care because, of course, we couldn't allow anything like ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, or even just something as like, why would you take people with a known respiratory pathogen and put them into an old folks' home? You'd want to do the opposite of that.
Right.
But they did that, right? And how that was allowed to persist and all of that, it's crazy. But I'm going to build the case for that in just a second. You're going to see it. It's worse than advertised. Now, this is Mamdani himself. He's actually strikes me as a fairly smart guy who's a good public speaker. Okay. But then there's the words he says.
We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford, a city where they can do more than just struggle. And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism, to stop mass ICE agents from deporting our neighbors, and to govern our city as a model for the Democratic Party.
Okay. All right.
Mamdani, is that how you say his name?
Mamdani. So you heard a few things in there, right? We're going to recreate utopia here. It's this language, right? We're just going to tweak a few things, and we're going to have an affordable, livable city again, right? So now we're down to the details. Those are good words. How are you going to do that?
How are they going to do that?
Okay.
Oh, they're going to do it like this. Taxation isn't theft. When Cuomo refuses to tax the rich, he's refusing to let workers enjoy the wealth they created. Mamdani is saying. When he says low taxes foster a business-friendly environment, he means an environment where it's easy for bosses to steal from workers. Taxation isn't theft. Capitalism is.
So, I mean, this is classic Marxist socialist. It's the two main emotions that he's going to be channeling are resentment and envy.
Right.
And the number one thing that socialists understand, like they understand breathing, is that you have something that they need.
Right.
So look what he says here. He's refusing Governor Cuomo, because this is an older tweet, but this is back when Governor Cuomo was governor, right? Now it's Kathy Hochul, who's just as bad, just as demonic. But he says, when Cuomo refuses to tax the rich, he's refusing to let the workers enjoy the wealth they created. Right. So think about that for a second. So that means, Evie, that you decide to go through all of the hoopla of jumping through all of the permits and the red tape and the inspections and everything to set up, say, a restaurant in New York City.
Right.
You're going to put capital at risk. You're going to have to hire. You're going to have to, go
I'm
into
going
debt.
to work like a dog.
You're going to work like a dog, and you're going to hire people. And he's saying you're stealing from them because you created this restaurant that they work in. Right.
Which is an asset to me and not to them, basically. And that's unfair.
They created the wealth. You didn't do it. Right. It's just like to a socialist, the restaurant, the chefs, the schedule, the load balancing, the ordering, the inventory, the wages, the legal fees, the business incorporation fees, the insurance, all of that just magically happens.
Yeah, they believe I should be responsible for that, basically.
It just all shows up magically. And then the workers actually create the wealth. This is nobody believes that.
Right. The expenses belong to me and the profit belongs to them.
Oh, well, yes,
basically.
Because they did all the work, right? Because nobody's as stupid, right? But this is the politics of resentment. You have a lot of people out there who also don't understand how it is they even have a job or what's required to create a job.
That's right.
They would never have the fortitude or the stamina or the risk tolerance to create jobs, most of them. Right? So they're lucky in my world that they have a job that they can go to because somebody else is carrying all of that other stuff.
That's right.
Right. This would be like walking into a household and saying, well, the kids are the reason this whole household exists and the parents are just evil people for doling out only $2 a week in allowance, Don't they realize the kids are the only reason this household, on and on? It's just stupid.
Yeah.
It's
anyway, crappy logic.
But wait, it gets worse.
Great. Okay. We don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. What? He's talking about defunding the police? He's bringing that out again?
Yeah.
What?
Time to defund the NYPD. This is your potential next mayor of New York City. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? And not needing an investigation is scary. That's a scary thing to go down. No, we want to defund the police, he says, in response to Cuomo saying, when people are saying defund the police, they are saying they want to see the real fundamental change. He says the state is passing an important package of reforms and local mayors or police departments must also hear the people
and make changes, right? And he's saying, no, we want to defund the police. He's like, no, you had it right.
Wow.
How about this then?
Great. More taxes and masks. Want to quote or hashtag tax the rich to fund a real recovery? Want to masks to support the hashtag public power and the need for democratically controlled utilities? For a limited time only, you can do both. I guess if you sign up for this thing, sign up to be a field lead and get one of these bad boys for free. So he's giving out free masks, I guess.
We like masks, but listen to that. Want to tax the rich to fund a real recovery. So this is the concept, is that the way you get a real recovery is by taxing the rich. Now, New York City already has some of the highest taxes in the world.
Yeah, it does.
It's ridiculous.
Hugely expensive.
Right. I mean, you have the real estate taxes in there are extraordinary.
Oh, they're awful.
They have income taxes there that are extraordinary. Right.
Are
and
they?
Then, yeah. Like it's like the state is already bad, but New York has a surcharge on top of that.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And it's pretty strong. And the whole idea is that the way you get to recovery, though, you want a real recovery, just tax the rich. Now, what they never do in these things is they never actually, Mamdani would never do this, to say, here's how many rich people we have. Here's how much they earn. Here's how much they're taxing currently. Here's how much we're going to increase it by. That's a number. Now, when I take this number and I apportion it thus and so, utopia, right? They won't actually take you through the math because it's about the emotion of saying greed and resentment. There are these rich people.
This is unfair.
It's unfair because that's what Marxism and socialism is. So it's just astonishing that we're getting to this here in the US. But here he is in 21 saying some things.
He says, walking while trans has criminalized Black and brown transgender women for too long, all for the crime of existence. This is a historic win in our continual fight to dismantle the police state, legalize sex work, and create a state where everyone has the right to walk on our streets. You can read more about Candy's story in the fight for trans rights and decriminalizing sex work here. And is it a transgender sex worker? What's happening?
I don't know.
I don't understand.
Walking while trans has criminalized Black and brown transgender women. I don't even know what that's referring to.
Okay, so
like in New York City, people walk around looking all kinds of ways and nobody says nothing about it.
No, so, and nobody even blinks twice.
Nope.
Because it's that kind of a city. But good grief. So he wants to legalize sex work. And dismantle the police at the same time.
Yep, dismantle the police, more prostitution. Somehow this is good for society. Okay, so carrying on, I'll take this one.
All right.
Look, Robbie Starbuck says this very well. As a public service announcement, PSA to New Yorkers ready to flee to Florida, Texas, Tennessee, now that it looks like socialist Zohran Mamdani will be New York City's next mayor. People expect you to be pleasant and friendly. Don't ever vote for a Democrat here. Assimilate to our way of life. What he's saying is the same thing I've heard from my friends in New Hampshire, where people in Massachusetts have created a literal hellhole for themselves. High taxes, low services, grubby, conditions, unsafe streets. And then they say, wow, I don't like living here. And they leave. And they bring that same ethos to the next place they go to. This has happened in like Austin, Texas. So this thing happens where the progressives, the Democrats, try and create utopia where they live by removing shoplifting limits and handing out free needles and doing all these things. And ultimately it creates a very unsafe, terrible environment. Nobody wants to live there. And then they leave and then they do it again. So it's like a spreading cancer is what he's saying here.
Kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems like that.
So don't do that. Don't do that. Okay.
Don't do that.
He also wants
no cost childcare. After rent, the biggest cost for New York's working families is childcare. It's literally driving them out of the city. New Yorkers with children under 6 are leaving at double the rate of all others. The burden falls heaviest on mothers who are giving up paying jobs to do unpaid childcare. Zohran will implement free childcare for every New Yorker aged 6 weeks to 5 years, ensuring high-quality programming for all families. And he will bring up wages for childcare workers, a quarter of whom currently live in poverty, to be at parity with public school teachers. It will foster early childhood development, save parents money, and keep our families in the city they call home.
Yeah, well, they forgot to answer that one question,
which is going to pay for that
down here. Who is going to pay for that? Right? Again, these plans, they have these plans and they never articulate the plans.
No.
They never spell out how this plan works. Free childcare.
Right. It's fantasy. It really is.
I'm not saying it's right that childcare is so expensive and all of this, but the idea is that, we'll make this free.
Right.
For people, but somebody has to pay for that. Okay.
Somebody's got to foot the bill.
Who's going to pay for this?
We can't afford to wait for the private sector to solve this crisis.
The housing crisis.
Right. Zohran will triple the city's production of publicly subsidized, permanently affordable, union-built, rent-stabilized homes.
Okay, hold on. So publicly subsidized. Who's going to pay for that?
Taxpayer funded.
Who's going to pay for that? Okay. But
right.
So rent stabilized is a term. That's one thing, right? Rent stabilized means they try and control the price at which it goes up.
Right,
it's still not a great deal for landlords and people who have to keep up with escalating costs of things like insurance and property taxes. But here's what he's actually talking about. So you'll love this, Evie. I know you're going to love this because this is a glitzy campaign ad.
I'm Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, and I'm running for mayor to freeze the rent for every rent-stabilized tenant.
Wait, you're gonna freeze my rent?
Yes.
Did I hear rent freeze?
Yes, this guy's gonna freeze the rent.
No hike?
None.
This guy's gonna freeze the rent.
It's true. As your next mayor, I will freeze your rent.
Paid for by Zohran for NYC.
Wow.
They're going to freeze the rent.
How is that going to
Are they
work
gonna
for
also-
landlords?
Are they going to
'Cause-
freeze the property taxes?
Yeah, because that's going to suck for people that own buildings.
No. So this is such a dangerous idea right here. The idea is that I, as a public official, am going to take your private business, right? Which, if you're a landlord, it's a business, right? I'm going to take your private business and I'm going to cap your revenues, but I'm going to leave the expense line. That's up to you. And by the way, I'm in charge of part of your expense line, and I'm going to drive that through the roof. It's a recipe for disaster. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
But can we just be totally honest about this? Here's what he's actually saying. He wants to support legislation ending cash bails.
Oh, decarceral legislation, end cash bail, repeal the walking while trans ban. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that is either.
Decriminalize sex work, legalize marijuana, permit safe injection sites, restrict solitary confinement, enact elder parole, enfranchise incarcerated New Yorkers. What does that mean? And we will also decriminalize simple drug possession, repeal all mandatory minimum sentences, reduce maximum sentences with retroactive effect, repeal felony bump up status, repeal sentencing statutes, repeal sentencing enhancements, and end cooperation with ICE.
Yep.
Wow. Last but not least.
That was in 2020, by the way. So this is, I mean, you get the flavor with this guy, right?
You can get the flavor of him.
Okay. So just to review, this is Zohran Mamdani's New York City. It's going to have rent controls, including rent freezes. He's promoting also the idea of government-run stores. We didn't cover that, but he said the same thing. He thinks the government should run stores because you know what? All these stores are like fleeing because of these disastrous progressive policies. Walgreens is leaving. You know what we'll do? We'll have government-run stores. So then the government can deal with the shoplifting.
God.
$30 minimum wage, free childcare, more prostitution. What could go wrong? Actually, what could go right? Nobody knows. Okay.
Nobody knows.
All right, Evie. So here's what we have to do. You know what? The good news is that this has all been tried before. So we have some models we can look at.
Right.
And so New York City is going to, if they finally elect this guy, they're going to end up looking either like London or South Africa. So, good luck. Look at this.
Or San Francisco.
Or San Francisco. I could have picked a dozen things. I picked two. We're going to look at a couple comparisons here, but look at this.
In the words of Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible until it's done. My friends, it is done, and you are the ones who did it. I am honored to be your Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York City.
All right.
10 hours ago.
Yeah. This is just today. So,
wow.
Nelson Mandela. So he's hearkening a great leader, Nelson Mandela. So he's like, oh yeah, I'm like that. At least he didn't. Well, anyway, I could make other comparisons, but